We have something interesting here today. The cheapest pair of replica AirPod Pros on the market. At just $26, this replica is less than half the price of the High City V2, which I reviewed earlier. So I'll be expecting exactly half the quality of the V2s. Even the box itself doesn't really heighten my expectations much. It's a low quality box, obviously to save money and to bypass customs. It's also considerably thinner than the AirPods Pro box, about as thick as a normal AirPods box. We open up the box to find the AirPod itself wrapped in the plastic sleeve, put that to the side for now, and we lift the cheap plastic layer to find a USB to Lightning cable, interesting, a small bag of ear tips, the instructions, and a quality check paper. The contents are a little lower quality than the V2s, but I guess in a way the USB to Lightning cable is better, seeing as how I didn't even open up the USB-C to Lightning cable on the other ones. I have no place to connect it to but my phone, and why would I do that? I'll be comparing these to my V2s that I reviewed since I can't afford the real Pros, and it's almost impossible to get anyways. As I said in the last video, these V2s are almost identical to real AirPods. As soon as we open the AirPods, we could see a couple of striking differences. First, the $26 pair doesn't have the front light at all, as well as the back button and hinge. Instead, we could see a light blinking inside the bottom of the case itself. Uh-oh. When we look at the manual, it says the blue light means that the AirPods is being charged by the case. A red light comes on when it's being charged, and there's no light when it's not being charged. It's funny how they call it a charging bin though. Now when we open up the case, it's not much different from the V2s. One difference is that it opens up from the hinge itself, not above it, so the lid opens up lower than the real AirPod Pro does. It also doesn't have the reverse magnetic lid. It's also obviously much lighter than the real ones, weighing in at a lightweight 32 grams, while the real AirPods weigh 45.6 grams, and the V2s are actually even heavier at 47 grams. So far so good. Or should I say bad. Now let's check out the earbuds. They look visually similar at a glance. As you can see, there are two dots at the top, and the side dot extends out further than real AirPods. Now we take them out and there's a light. Not a small dot, a full-on green light. Ooh. Thankfully, these lights won't flash when you have them in your ears under normal circumstances. It only flashes when you turn the earbuds on or when you're pairing them. The only other time it turns on is when you're charging them inside the case. Comparing the two, we could see that visually they still look pretty similar to real AirPods. The bottom charging connector is more or less the same, but as we go up, we could see more differences. The touch sensors are sort of soft, almost as if it's melted. Obviously there's no printing on the bottom, and it lacks this black dot as well. I'm not sure what it does. For some reason, there are these two holes on the front and the back of these earbuds, which don't exist on real AirPods or even the manual of these Airs Pros. I'm guessing that these are the microphone holes. The real AirPods seem to have the microphone inside the body itself, and I guess that these V2s do the same. The printing of the black dots are also lower quality and untextured, but I obviously expected this much since the price is so low. The ear tips that come pre-installed are pretty floppy and large, and also obviously has the connectors that stick out. I tried putting the ear tips that came in with my High City V2s and it fit perfectly. It looks much nicer with these ear tips. I have no idea why this one has this large type of rubber ear tip. Thankfully, once they're in the ear, both ear tips feel pretty much the same. This ear tip is not as uncomfortable as it looks. This one actually comes with 3 sizes of ear tips, small, medium, and large, and it seems that I have a very average ear size because the small size doesn't even feel like it's in my ears, and the large size doesn't fit very well. I don't get why they're transparent though. I think they used a lower quality type of rubber. Obviously, this pair doesn't have a back button or a proper hinge, so it doesn't connect the way that other AirPod reps do, by opening the lid. Instead, once you take them out of the case, you go into your Bluetooth settings and select the Airs Pro, and they'll connect. Interestingly, this triggers a pop-up on the iPhone 6 with iOS 12.4.5. It doesn't show much, only a battery percentage, but it's interesting how it gets triggered after you manually connect them in the Bluetooth settings. Once you connect, they'll blink a few times and then they say this. Now, AirPod clones have different things called chipsets. These are essentially the most important aspect of Bluetooth earbuds because they control the audio quality, functions, and connectivity. There are many different chipsets, the cheapest and worst being the JL, sometimes called GLE or Jerry chip, the BES series being somewhere in the middle, and the best being the Airwell 1536 chip. There seems to be a variation, the 1536U, which is supposedly better, but its existence is controversial, so just have that in mind. According to High City, these have a chipset called Bluetrum, very little of which is known. He said it was much better than GLE, but a little worse than Airwell chips. And is it worse? Surprisingly, I'm not sure. The two versions, each with different chips, have different types of sound. The V2 with the Airwell 1536 chip has much louder sounds which make it sound better and more audible, while the Airs Pro with the Bluetrum chip sounds crisper, which considerably improves the voices in video and audio. If it just weren't for the giveaway looks, I may actually consider using these for daily use rather than my V2s, because I listen to videos with voices more, like podcasts, and some AirPod replicas do a really bad job at carrying out the voices. And when I tested out the bass, I could tell it did a much lesser job than the V2s. So it seems that the V2s are more centered on deep sounds and bass, while the Airs Pros try hard to give you crisper sounds. When you're listening to music that's not very deep, it could even sound tinny at times. It's interesting because most other bad quality earbuds I tried made the music sound mushy. What you choose depends on your preferences. If you primarily watch YouTube videos with voices, you may actually prefer this. These cheap AirPod Pro clones obviously don't have real squeeze sensors, they're touch sensors, so it works even if you press on it lightly. Holding the button down turns the earbuds off or on. One press pauses or plays the song. Two presses, when done on the left earbud, goes back to the previous song or video, and two presses on the right earbud skips to the next song or video. Three presses activates Google Assistant or Siri based on which device you're on. The touch controls actually work well, which is impressive. It sometimes activates when you're adjusting the earbuds in your ear though, and it doesn't make any sound unlike the V2s and real AirPod Pros. Now for the mic test. As I said before, some cheaper AirPod clones actually secretly use the phone's microphone to trick people into thinking that the AirPod's microphone is better than it actually is. These don't, which can be seen by tapping the earbuds. It's silent, but the AirPod's microphone picks up the sound. I tested these out by recording the same audio on multiple devices. So this is being recorded by the Galaxy Note 9. This is being recorded by the High City V2s. This is being recorded by the Airs Pro. And this is being recorded by the Umi DG-F1. And this is being recorded by the Canon PowerShot.
As you can hear, the audio quality is very bad. You should not use this for recording or taking phone calls. Just don't use the microphone on this one. I sound like the phone guy from Five Nights at Freddy's. Hello? Maybe it'll be useful for that.
And now for the rest of the functions. GPS? None. Rename? None. Transparency? Nope. Active noise cancelling? No. In-ear sensors? No. Pop-up? No. Wireless charging? I mean, who needs it? And so again, here's the big question. Why the heck would we buy these? 3 reasons. First, if you want a pair of earbuds that look like AirPod Pros, this is a recommendable choice. I had some Halo GT1 earbuds before, but I gave them away because it simply didn't fit my ears. They would always fall out when I moved my jaw, so I would always be afraid that they'd disappear. I found that AirPods, especially the AirPod Pros, fit my ear better, which is why I prefer these types of earbuds instead of these types of earbuds. Second, these have pretty good sound quality. Initially, I was let down by the low build quality and design, but after hearing the audio on these, I'm having second thoughts. Now, there are numerous other models out there, some that are around $30 and look like real AirPod Pros, even with the black ear tips, but be careful, since almost all of these have the low quality GLE chip. It will sound considerably worse, as I said before. Third, they're cheap. $26 for Bluetooth earbuds is pretty cheap in any case, and while it's obvious that most of them have to sacrifice either audio quality or build quality, I find that I'd rather sacrifice the build rather than audio quality. And as I said above, most AirPod Pro clones that are around $30 usually choose to sacrifice the audio quality, unfortunately. So to sum up, the pros and cons. Here are the pros. As I said, they're cheap, $26 with free shipping. The sound quality is, as I said, relatively good. They look sort of like real AirPod Pros, and the connection process is pretty easy. The touch sensors are also actually pretty good, and it has more functionality than the V2s I had, which didn't support different functions for each side. Now for the cons. The build quality feels cheap, just like the price. It's light and the hinge isn't very satisfying like real AirPods or the good replicas. It doesn't really look like real AirPods either. At a glance it may fool people, but the different dots in the lights, although it won't turn on normally, may give it away. So these aren't really suitable for flexing purposes. As I said, it's not focused on deep sounds or bass, so it can sound tinny on certain types of music. It's missing a lot of features, not really important, but quality of life features like pop-ups or renaming. And the connection is pretty unstable. It sometimes cuts out or doesn't play music when you first connect them, but thankfully it always goes away if you reconnect them. It could also be because I had a lot of Bluetooth devices next to my phone, and they were interfering with the signals, I guess. And you can't put a case on these. As I showed you, the hinge works differently, so normal cases won't work very well on them. You'll have to modify the case to fit these. So should you buy these? Depends on you. If you like the shape of AirPod Pros but aren't expecting much feature-wise, maybe you'd like these. If you want AirPods that look real and function exactly like the real ones, you'd want the better AirPod Pro replicas such as the HiCity V3.5. In any case, visit the Reptronic subreddit to take a look at the Ultimate Guide, which has a list of verified sellers and quality check products, and if you have any questions, go ask them on the AirReps Discord. A lot of nice people there. I'll constantly be working on more videos, so keep a lookout for them. Thanks for watching, and keep safe.